his two dead friends in the car. They seized the car, no man purses. How significant do you see that?
Well, I mean, in a case like this, where the allegation is they carried out the murder with guns, guns can fit into those satchels very well, and then they're gone, and then the guns are gone, and we can't find the guns, right? So this is a very this is a way of the prosecution explaining where the guns were, what happened to them. Clearly, Melly's not there. Portland arrives. It's worse for Portland because he has it in his possession. You can see it physically on the tape, and then if his story is to be believed, he gets in that vehicle with the two victims, and then they're shot, and then he goes to the hospital. So there's no intervening stop that he makes. There's no intervening thing that would remove that satchel from him. Melly, we don't see at the hospital, so we don't know where when his story alters from that. But Portland's his story is: I got into the car, we were driving, this drive-by happens, and then I go to the hospital. So that is satchel
phones these days that track everything we do, our steps, everything. And Detective Moretti said he analyzed the cell phone records, and he looked at where Melly's cell phone, which is in dispute. The defense says it was almost like passed around and used by everybody, but the state says no way, it was Melly's phone. He says he looks at that, the longitude and the latitude, and it puts Melly's phone right at the crime scene. Take a listen.
So Detective Moretti, I want to go here to Publishing States 90. Once you have your bearings on this, this point from the 9807 phone, I'm going to switch over to the other side, at 4:03 a.m. What area does this depict?
This is the actual crime scene on US 27 Pembroke Road.
And
name. And this guy, that guy is just, I have no words for that guy.
What was it in particular that was said on that FaceTime that made you think that Melly was responsible?
Nothing was said. Actually, it was like the demeanor. It was like the body language, really. Like I was just reading them, and as I'm telling them and asking them questions, I got so emotional, I started crying. They wasn't reacting to, they act like they didn't have take a loss at all. That's how I took it. And then when I was talking to them, I still had in the back of my mind that something's not right. Something's not right.
Did they tell you anything about what they claimed happened with the drive-by they claim happened?
No, they had absolutely no explanation. Like we had to figure it out just like the police.
Chris, why do you think that this happened? Why do you think, Melly did this? Because, Melly is on trial. The state has to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt that he committed these crimes. But why do you think this happened?
I think the story about the $200,000 with Anthony was a true story because it's not reported, but Chris told me the same story, and also with a $500,000 play, and Melly was going to get $200,000, Sack was going to get $200,000. Chris was going to get $100,000, and as I'm hearing it from Chris, they was going to sell the YWN brand, not a record deal or nothing like that. It was like for the brand itself, and by them being founding members, they was going to get a piece of the pie. So I don't think Melly did it on his own. I think that manager guy got in his ear and did a little divide and conquer. Because if it was up to Sack, it would never be a $100K management.
They were going to sell the YN.
You see the resentment. I buy the fact that they were childhood friends and they grew up very close friends together and still were. But at some point, there was a growing rift between them. And I think these types of texts kind of prove that, or at least lend support to that allegation. There was a rift here. There was some jealousy. There was some resentment about who was getting the credit and who was the face of it and who was really the
money over certain situations. And they got in a fight prior to that. And they said, like, the story that they say Sack beat him up and knocked his goals out in front of his girlfriend. And like 2 days later, I think that's when the incident happened.
Chris, I know that something that has to be really hard about this is the fact that there are relatives here, relatives of Cortland Henry, who are also relatives of the victims.
Yes. Chris and Cortland share a sister, and She's my daughter. Her and Chris had the same dad, which is me, and her and Courtland share the same mom. And she took the side of Melly. She still to this day screams Free Melly all on her Facebook, Instagram. She'll go live with the Free Melly shirts, and they just got her brainwashed with the money. They just showering her with gifts and Courtland, and got my daughter just brainwashed to the fact that she wishing the killer of her brother was free. And I just don't understand that. That's a heartbreaking feeling.